President Trump says he's sticking with his July 9th deadline for the trade deal and has once again threatened to walk away from negotiations and hit several countries, including Japan, with new tariffs. Talks with Canada have resumed after it backed off plans to tax U.S. tech companies, a move Trump called a blatant attack. Now, both sides are pushing to reach a deal by July 21st. All of this is happening as a 90-day pause on most other tariffs is set to expire next week. Canada's already been put on notice, and Trump's threatening fresh tariffs on our northern neighbor. On Truth Social, Trump pointed to Canada's incoming digital services tax that would impact U.S.-based providers. Something's clearly off in the heart of American manufacturing. The factories are open, but they're slowing down. Orders are coming in. But not like before. Assembly lines are still running, but not fully staffed. It's like something invisible is wrapping tighter and tighter around the gears of the world's largest industrial economy. It's not war. It's not a recession. And it's not even a strike. It's tariffs. For the fourth month in a row, American manufacturing is stuck below the growth line. The Institute for Supply Management just dropped new numbers, and they're more than just disappointing. They're a red flag. The main index sits at 49.0. Anything under 50 means contraction. It's not a crash, but it's a steady decline, and it's getting worse. New orders have fallen for the fifth straight month, now sitting at 46.4. Employment is also taking a hit, with the manufacturing job index now at 45.0. Factories are slowly cutting staff, even as the broader economy looks strong on paper. What's causing this slow bleed isn't a collapse in demand. Consumers are still spending, but costs are spiking. The prices paid index has jumped 69.7. Companies are shelling out more for steel, electronics, chemicals, packaging, and shipping. And there's one word that keeps popping up in surveys, reports, and earnings calls: tariffs. Trump's trade team is back to using tariffs as their go-to tool. Import duties are up. Export licenses are harder to get. Regulatory approvals are slower. This has created a chaotic industrial environment where companies are rushing to place early orders, reroute shipments, rewrite contracts, and rethink how and where they operate. Inside U.S. factories, there's confusion. One procurement manager told researchers that orders spiked 2 months ago, then dropped off a cliff. Why? Because customers are trying to stock up before the next wave of tariffs hits. That creates major instability. Companies overorder and vanish. Inventory piles up, then stalls. Suppliers are left guessing. Manufacturers can't plan. The end result is chaos disguised as productivity. What looks like resilience is often just panic, and the fear is very real. Trump has floated the idea of raising the current 25% tariff on imported vehicles to 50%. Automakers are on alert. Ford has already pulled its 2025 profit forecast, warning that current tariffs could cost them more than $2.5 billion this year. That's not a theoretical loss. That's $1.5 billion in pre-tax earnings already gone. To cope, Ford is doing something rare. They're shipping vehicles made in Mexico through bonded truck shipments into Canada. From there, the vehicles come into the U.S. through backdoor regulatory loopholes to dodge tariffs. It's a workaround that adds time, complexity, and risk. But it's still cheaper than paying full duties. General Motors isn't in better shape. Executives have publicly lowered profit projections, blaming tariffs for a $5 billion hit. To make up for the losses, manufacturers are doing what they always do when squeezed: they're hiking prices. Ford, Subaru, and others have already raised sticker prices on new models. But the deeper damage is happening off the sales floor. Contracts are being rewritten. Suppliers are being replaced. Production decisions aren't based on efficiency anymore. They're about avoiding penalties. And it's not just car makers. Over in electronics, things are just as intense. Apple, America's biggest consumer tech brand, airlifted over $2 billion worth of iPhones from India to the U.S. in just 1 month. Why? To beat the tariffs. Apple supplier Foxconn added weekend shifts at its Tamil Nadu factory. Customs at Chennai Airport created a green corridor that cut clearance times from 30 hours down to 6. The result? A 30% jump in iPhone imports to the U.S. in March. This wasn't a sales boom. It was a fear-driven race. Samsung moved fast too, pushing shipments from Vietnam and India. These weren't growth strategies. They were defensive moves. Other sectors are bracing as well. Consumer goods companies are warning retailers about upcoming price hikes. Appliance makers are launching new product lines designed to sidestep tariffs. Every barcode now ties back to a spreadsheet that's been recalculated to deal with a world where trade policy can flip overnight. In Japan, June's manufacturing index barely crossed the 50 mark for the first time in over a year. The new orders dropped. Business leaders blame uncertainty over American trade policy. In South Korea, factories have shrunk for 5 straight months. Not because of weak demand, but due to tariff exposure on cars and electronics. China's situation offers a telling sign. The government's official manufacturing index shows contraction. But the private Caixin index, focused on exports, surprisingly rose to 50.4. Why? Because firms are shipping out as much as they can now, not expecting growth, but fearing the next round of tariffs. India stands out. Its factory output just hit a 14-month high, not because it's the cheapest place to make goods, but because it's seen as the safest. Predictable delivery times, stable customs, and consistent documentation. That's what companies are chasing out. That's what companies are chasing now. India's not winning on price. It's winning on reliability. Europe's showing similar trends. Eurozone factory output is still slightly contracting. But Ireland and the Netherlands are growing fast. No coincidence, since they host key supply chains for pharma electronics, and engineering. Germany, once the industrial heart of Europe, is lagging. In the UK, manufacturing is still shrinking, but at a slower pace. European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde recently said today's trade environment is even more uncertain than during the pandemic. That's not a metaphor. That's the central banker saying tariffs are more disruptive than a global lockdown. Inside corporate boardrooms, the panic is real. One study found that big companies now keep at least 5 backup plans for sourcing and logistics. Some keep 10. That's not flexibility. That's survival. Even online retailers are feeling it. On Amazon, prices for Chinese-made goods started rising faster than inflation in May. Why? Companies loaded up inventory before tariffs hit. Now they're passing the cost to you. What used to be a steady supply chain is now unpredictable, distorted by hoarding delays and constant change. It's getting even more complicated. Supply chains are being physically restructured. Ford isn't the only one using Canada as a workaround. In electronics, importers are sending parts through free trade zones. Air cargo is up. Rail yards are jammed with shipments waiting or rerouted. Every transport method is now part of a makeshift roadmap. Even contract law is changing. Dynamic pricing is the new norm. Sales teams are using live tariff calculators. Product quotes now include fine print for tariff hikes. Small businesses are having to hire trade compliance experts just to keep up. What used to be a quarterly concern is now a weekly scramble. Meanwhile, Washington's charging ahead. The White House is pushing tariff deadlines with the EU, South Korea, and Japan. If there's no agreement by July 9th, duties on certain goods, including vehicles and dairy, could jump to 50%. Negotiators are rushing. European ministers are flying to D.C. South Korea is sending emergency teams. India's hit a wall. Talks with New Delhi have stalled. Modi wants more access to U.S. markets for food, steel, and autos. Trump wants a 26% tariff on Indian exports. The gap's big. The deadline's solid. This isn't a normal trade spat. It's a global standoff. The manufacturers are stuck in the middle. For every factory cutting jobs, how there's looking to move. For every delayed shipment, there's a deal that might collapse. What makes this moment different isn't just the size of the crisis. It's the timing. There's no recession. Unemployment is low. People are still spending. Yet factories are slowing down. Orders are shrinking and prices are climbing. It's not economic failure. It's policy friction. And friction doesn't go away quietly. It locks up the machine. Bit by bit, behind the scenes. One contract isn't renewed. One supplier disappears. One buyer never places another order. That's how manufacturing dies. Not with a bang, but with silence. And now, the world is watching. Will the U.S. rebuild confidence in its industrial engine, or chase an edge that's already fading? Because a tariff might save one factory, but cripple 5. A gain today could cost a decade of stability. Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you're with Control Lost, hit that subscribe button.